Hey everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Sixpath Weeb, your guide through the untold, the unexpected, and the utterly wild corners of the anime multiverse. Today, we dive back into the world of alternate possibilities with part 2 of our fanfic. What if Naruko's smile hid a crimson curse? Get ready for twists, power plays, and secrets that the hidden leaf was never meant to uncover. Disclaimer: this channel is purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage featured. All rights and credit belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. So, grab your headbands, channel your inner shinobi. Let's begin. Naruko's promotion. Naruko sighed quietly as she leaned against a tree branch that had been slightly damaged during her training spar with Kakashi. As she noticed a group of her friends and fellow shinobi approaching, she couldn't help but think that being promoted to Jounin might come with more responsibility than she was ready for. After seeing the amount of paperwork Kakashi had to handle following the wave mission, she had started to doubt if she wanted that kind of workload. Things are about to get a whole lot more complicated, she muttered to herself. If I hadn't just sparred with you myself, I would have thought you got lazy during your training journey, Kakashi said, flipping a page in his orange book. We already have a Shikamaru, we definitely don't need another. I'm not being lazy, Naruko replied, brushing off her fatigue. It's just. Never mind. Oh hey. I got something for you, sensei. She reached into her pouch. You're definitely going to like this. Knowing your tastes. Kakashi lifted his eye from the book with curiosity. What could this be? Where is it? Ah. Here we go. Behold, Kakashi-sensei. The newest edition of the Icha Icha series, Icha Icha Late Nights. Naruko held up an orange book with bold golden lettering. Several nearby shinobi, including Jounin, Chonin, and Sanin, overheard the declaration. Many of the kunoichi narrowed their eyes toward Jiraiya, who looked increasingly nervous. Jiraiya. Tsunade began, cracking her knuckles. Exactly what have you been teaching Naruko? Wait, Tsunade. I can explain, Jiraiya stammered, backing away slightly as her gaze sharpened. You gave her that book? A group of kunoichi shouted in unison. Moments later, Tsunade's chakra-enhanced punch sent Jiraiya flying. Kakashi sidestepped as the Sanin soared past him, landing with a groan behind the group. Kakashi turned to his student. Naruko. Where did you even get that book? And. Can I? Naruko smiled playfully. Well, Uro Sennin gave it to me about 1.5 years ago. He said it was a good way to pass the time when I needed to rest after training. At first, I wasn't interested. But one day, after training for over a day straight with water-style jutsu and kenjutsu using clones, I completely exhausted my chakra and had to spend the next day resting. She paused, seeing that Kakashi and several others were listening intently. Anyway, I was stuck resting and super bored, so I decided to read it. I didn't expect to enjoy it, but once you get past the questionable parts, the storytelling is actually kind of interesting. A muffled voice called out from under the rubble, Hey! Those books are a work of art. Naruko sighed and looked in Jiraiya's direction. Let me finish. By now, Tsunade and the others had gathered around, many listening with mixed expressions. The kunoichi especially looked unimpressed, casting long stares at Jiraiya's general vicinity. Anyway, I didn't get through much of it, but I started to understand why people read it, for the stories, I mean. I'm so proud. Jiraiya managed to yell before a rain of kunai, needles, and a powerful genjutsu, courtesy of Kurenai, silenced him again. The male shinobi winced in sympathy, while their female teammates stood over him with a firm sense of justice. Kakashi's eyes returned to the book Naruko was holding. So, is that for me? Naruko grinned. Didn't I say I had a gift for you? Kakashi took the book eagerly and gave his student a warm hug. Naruko, it has always been a privilege being your sensei. The other's sweat dropped at the moment. Yosh! Kakashi has embraced the flames of youth, Guy exclaimed, sparkling with energy. Lee prepared to mirror the sentiment but stopped when Kakashi shot him a warning glance. Tsunade cleared her throat to regain everyone's attention. Now then, let's get to the real reason we're all here. Everyone turned toward the Hokage. You've all seen Naruko's performance today, Asuma, Kurenai, Guy, Genma, and Kakashi. Based on what you've seen, what is your decision regarding her promotion? Naruko's expression remained composed, though her eyes scanned each Jounin carefully. Shikamaru, Sakura, Shizune, and Team Guy stood quietly in anticipation. I, Asuma Sarutobi, proctor of this match, accept Uzumaki Naruko to the Jounin ranks, Asuma said calmly. Yuhi Kurenai, also accept Uzumaki Naruko, Kurenai followed. The bright and shining beast of Konoha, Mito Guy, accept Naruko-kun with all the flames of my youth, Guy shouted, doing his signature pose. Everyone shielded their eyes from his sparkling smile. Only Guy-sensei could make this into a stage performance, Naruko thought with amusement. Shiranui Genma, also accept Uzumaki Naruko, Genma stated after pulling the senbone from his mouth. All eyes landed on Kakashi, who reluctantly tucked his book away under Tsunade's piercing stare. He straightened and replied, Hatake Kakashi, accept my student, Uzumaki Naruko, to the Jounin ranks. Tsunade nodded. Are these your final decisions? The Jounin remained silent, confirming their verdict. The Hokage looked at Naruko, a small smile appearing on her face. Well then, Naruko. Congratulations. As of now, you are officially a Jounin of the Hidden Leaf Village. You've earned it. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Naruko smiled brightly at her hard-earned promotion. Yosh. Naruko-kun's flames of youth have ignited beyond mine. I must train harder, Lee shouted, mimicking Guy's pose with enthusiasm. Naruko's eyes moved to her green-clad friend, noting how much he resembled his sensei. By the stars. He's even more like Guy than before. What on earth happened while I was away? Congratulations, Naruko. I expected nothing less, Neji said with a slight smile. Naruko glanced at him, slightly amused. Neji. Give you longer hair and a softer voice and you'd pass as a pretty convincing kunoichi. You'd probably gentle fist me into next week if I said that out loud though. She just smiled and nodded, keeping the thought to herself. Tenten gave her a pat on the back. You put on quite a show, Naruko. How about a kenjutsu spar sometime? You're good with that wind blade. Naruko smiled at her. I'd love that, Tenten-chan. I'm curious to see your swordplay too. Tenten blushed slightly, and several shinobi nearby raised their eyebrows. The kunoichi seemed mildly flustered while the male nin exchanged amused glances. Kakashi silently mourned, Naruko, are you surpassing me in charisma too? Sakura blinked. What? What was that? This isn't the same Naruko from before. Tsunade chuckled to herself. Keep that up and you'll have admirers left and right. Man, Naruko. You just got more troublesome, Shikamaru muttered with a small grin. Naruko chuckled. Nice to see you too, Shika. Still being nagged by your mom and Ino for being too relaxed? Troublesome, Shikamaru sighed, plopping down beside her. Sakura stepped forward nervously. Congrats. Naruko. Thanks. Sakura, Naruko replied with a small smile. The kunoichi felt a small ache in her heart at the absence of the chan suffix in her name. The others noticed it too, and the silence between the two teammates of Team 7 created a sense of awkwardness in the air. Jiraiya, who had just stood up from where he had landed earlier, chose to speak up and relieve the tension. Alright, that's enough with the congratulations. Tsunade, I believe you have something to say. The blonde Hokage gave a grateful glance to her old teammate, who leaned casually against a nearby tree as the mood lightened. Aware that all attention was now on her, she cleared her throat and spoke, Yes, I do. Naruko, please come to my office at 6 p.m. That's about an hour from now. Kakashi, I need you there as well. Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, Genma, you're dismissed. Sakura, your hospital shift has already begun, so I suggest you hurry. That will be all. Hi. The Jounin responded in unison, except for Neji, and disappeared using the Shunshine technique. Tsunade-sama. Sakura turned to her mentor, whose expression was apologetic. I'm sorry, Sakura, but you're already 20 minutes late. We don't have anyone available to cover your shift right now. Shizune, please go with her. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Come, Sakura. Shizune gently placed a hand on Sakura's shoulder. The pink-haired kunoichi turned to her teammate. Naruko, it's good to see you back. Before Naruko could respond, both medic nin vanished in a puff of smoke. She stared at the fading trails of chakra in the air. Yeah. It's good to be back, Sakura. With a small sigh, Naruko pushed herself off the tree and stretched her arms. Well, since I've got an hour before the meeting, I'm going to get something to eat at Ichiraku. Wait. Lee and I are heading that way. We're training at Ground 14, and that's on the same route, Tenten said, glancing at Naruko. Yosh. This is perfect. We can now ask Naruko-chan about her inspiring travels, Lee exclaimed, full of energy. I'll come too. My training with Yashi-sama doesn't begin for another 3 hours, Neji added, trying to ignore Lee's enthusiasm. I've got to go. Ino and Kuji are waiting for me at the barbecue place. Don't want Ino getting annoyed just because I'm late, Shikamaru said with a yawn, waving before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Wait, Naruko. Tsunade called with a firm voice. The blonde turned around. Yes? Tsunade pulled a scroll from her pocket and tossed it to Naruko, who caught it with ease. That has the address to your new apartment. The old complex was damaged during a storm about 6 months ago. What was salvageable has already been moved to your new place, along with new furniture. Unseal the scroll with your chakra to retrieve the key. Thanks, Tsunade-sama. With a friendly wave, Naruko vanished into the trees alongside Team Guy. Tsunade scowled slightly, a vein pulsing on her forehead. Even after all this time, she still calls me Ba-chan. At least she doesn't call you anything embarrassing, Jiraiya said, smiling as he leaned against the tree. Whatever. Let's go. I need a break after all this. The slug Sanin tugged Jiraiya by the arm. Is drinking this early a good idea? Jiraiya winced under her grip. Konoha doesn't need a tipsy Hokage right now. Just keep walking. Meanwhile, Naruko and Team Guy made their way through the streets, catching up on events in the village during her time away. Soon, they arrived at Ichiraku Ramen, now expanded from a small stand into a modest restaurant. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the place got a full renovation while you were gone. They added more items to the menu, and it's been popular ever since, Tenten explained. Naruko nodded, impressed by the new layout. The once small stand now had tables, booths, and a long counter that curved into the restaurant. Behind it stood Ayame, working the register, while her father cooked in the back. All right, Naruko, we'll see you later, Tenten said. Lee gave a dramatic wave, and Neji nodded before they departed. Naruko watched them go, then turned her attention to the restaurant. Stepping inside, the familiar chime above the door rang out. Welcome to Ichiraku's. I'll be right with you, Ayame said without looking up. It's all right, Ayame. Just admiring what you've done with the place. Looks like things have been going well these past few years, came a warm and familiar voice. Ayame's hands froze. Slowly looking up, she saw the blonde Kunoichi standing at the counter with a gentle smile. And Naruko? She said, surprised. Naruko stepped forward and, with a small, playful gesture, lifted Ayame's chin. Ayame's cheeks flushed pink. Yep. The one and only. Before Naruko could say another word, Ayame wrapped her in a tight hug, the faint scent of miso ramen in the air. Naruko smiled and gently returned the hug before stepping back. So, how things been, Ayame? It's been quiet without you here. I'm really glad you're back. Hold on a sec. Ayame turned and called out to the kitchen. What? A moment later, Tucci burst through the curtain with wide eyes. When he spotted Naruko, he grinned and gave her a hearty pat on the shoulder. It's about time our number one customer came back. Things haven't been the same without you, kiddo. It's good to be back, old man. I like the upgrades, Naruko laughed, motioning around. Yeah, the changes have been good for business. Anyway, what'll it be? 3 bowls of miso ramen, please, she said with enthusiasm. Coming right up, Tucci said, heading back to the kitchen. As he cooked, Ayame found herself observing Naruko more closely. The young Kunoichi had grown, her features were sharper, her posture more confident, and her energy just as vibrant. Ayame blushed again, trying not to let it show. Naruko noticed the glance and gave her a playful smirk. Something on your mind, On? Ayame's blush deepened, and she quickly retreated to the kitchen. Naruko chuckled quietly. Guess sensei was right, confidence can be charming. Moments later, both Ayame and Tucci returned with her order. Enjoy, Naruko-chan. It's on the house, our way of saying welcome back, Tucci said warmly. Thanks, old man. Itadakimasu, Naruko said, digging in with enthusiasm. Though she had learned to eat with more control than in her childhood, her love for ramen hadn't changed. Ayame smiled from the counter, comforted by the familiarity of it all. Finishing her meal, Naruko stood to leave. Thanks again, Ayame-chan. Ramen's as amazing as ever. Tell your dad I'll be back tomorrow. I've got a meeting with Tsunade Ba-chan soon, and I doubt she'll be thrilled to see me in these scuffed up clothes. Ayame smiled and waved as Naruko left. Following the directions from the scroll, Naruko made her way toward her new home. After some searching, She arrived at a clean apartment complex not far from the Hokage Tower. Using her chakra, she activated the scroll seal, and a key appeared in a puff of smoke. The apartment smelled of fresh pine and had clearly been cleaned recently. It was more spacious than her old one, with a modern kitchen, a comfortable living room, and a large bedroom. A framed photo of Team 7 sat beside a set of neatly arranged ninja tools. Naruko smiled, appreciating the care taken to make this new home feel personal. She freshened up and changed into clean clothes before heading out. Back in the Hokage's office, Jiraiya leaned against the wall. "So, what's the plan with the council?" "I'm going to show them the truth. They've always been somewhat neutral toward Naruko, hopefully, they'll listen now," Tsunade replied. "With things calmer lately, it should go smoothly," he agreed. A knock on the door interrupted their discussion. "Hokage-sama, Naruko-san is here to see you," Izumo announced. "Send her in." Moments later, Naruko entered in clean clothes, smiling. "All right, Butchin, what did you want to talk about?" A tick mark formed on Tsunade's forehead. Before anyone could blink, she tossed a paperweight at her. Naruko caught it just in time. "Don't call me that." Yes, Tsunade-sama," she replied playfully, setting it down. Tsunade handed her a jounin vest, which Naruko accepted with gratitude. She slipped it on, fitting perfectly over her outfit. "So? How do I look?" she asked. "You look like you're ready to lead a mission, or maybe break a few hearts," Jiraiya teased. Tsunade rolled her eyes, then smiled. "It looks good on you. Welcome to the rank of jounin, Naruko." "Thanks, Butchin. Oh, and great apartment, by the way. Major upgrade from the old one. I'm glad you like it. Now let's just hope Kakashi isn't." A puff of smoke interrupted her. Kakashi appeared, calm as ever. "Yo." Naruko smiled softly as Jiraiya chuckled at Kakashi and Lady Tsunade, the latter slightly flustered from the brief exchange. Regaining her composure, the blonde Hokage cleared her throat, prompting silence from everyone in the room. "Kakashi, it's good you're on time. I'd like you to show Naruko the regulations, gathering spots, and jounin lounges. She's still adjusting to her new rank," she instructed, casting a glance toward the attentive Kunoichi. "Yes, Tsunade-sama. Come on, Naruko, I'll introduce you to some of my friends too, you'll probably be working with them on missions soon," Kakashi said, turning to his former student. "All right," Naruko replied, walking beside Kakashi toward the door. Before exiting, she turned back to wave cheerfully. "See you later, Butchin, Uro-senin." The door closed gently behind them, leaving Tsunade and Jiraiya in the quiet of the office. Jiraiya took a seat near the Hokage's desk, pulling a scroll from his pocket and placing it on the table. "This is a report from Hiro. It details Naruko's recent missions and training. He gave it to me earlier today," he explained. Tsunade sighed as she eyed the report. "Just what I needed, more paperwork." She pulled out a bottle of sake from her desk, poured some into her saucer, and took a slow sip. "Looks like it's going to be a long night." Jiraiya took the bottle and poured himself a little. "Be grateful I'm here helping. I could be off researching right now," he said lightly. Tsunade shot him a look. "Just do your part, Jiraiya." Dash. Far away, the wind howled through the mountains as a kunoichi raced through the night at high speed. The moonlight reflected off the cloud forehead protector on her brow, the only visible detail amid her swift, indigo blur. "I couldn't match their strength, even with Nekomata's help. I have to get out of here. Forgive me, Nagi-sama, but I must leave the village for now." Her thoughts were interrupted when a three-bladed weapon suddenly swung in front of her. She bent backward just in time, narrowly dodging it. "Thought you could escape, huh?" A voice echoed from the shadows. Two figures appeared on a boulder, blocking her path. They wore identical black cloaks with red cloud patterns. One had slicked back silver hair, the other wore a hidden village forehead protector from Takigakure, his face hidden beneath his cloak. "You're getting slow, Hidan." "That was disappointing," the cloaked shinobi from Takigakure said. "Not my fault," Hidan retorted. "You were the one who gave her time to run." "Well, we've got her cornered now," the other replied calmly. "Let's wrap this up. I'd like to go after someone with a better bounty." The kunoichi prepared to defend herself, pulling out two kunai and gripping one in each hand. "Yugito. Nibi? You need to retreat. These two are stronger than you think." "But where to? I'm exhausted, and I don't have enough energy left to call on you again." Just then, Hidan's scythe came flying toward her again. She dodged right, only to find herself directly in Kakuzu's path. Two mask-like entities extended from his back, held aloft by dark threads, gathering chakra. Wind style, pressure gale. Lightning style, false darkness. The twin attacks roared toward Yugito. She tried to move but was held in place by Hidan. "What are you doing?" she cried out. Hidan simply laughed. "Don't worry. You'll be fine. For now." The attacks were nearly upon her. With no way to break free, Yugito closed her eyes, bracing herself. A brilliant flash of light followed by a powerful blast shook the area. When she opened her eyes, the ground ahead had turned into a crater, but she was unharmed. "How? What happened?" Hidan shouted. "I happened," a calm, deep voice answered from behind. Before he could react, Hidan was struck squarely in the face by a powerful punch that sent him flying into a tree. Yugito blinked in surprise, now face to face with another figure, this one also in an Akatsuki cloak. "What are you doing here, Kisame?" Kakuzu asked sharply. "Just doing what feels right," Kisame replied with a smirk. "So now you're rebelling against the organization?" Hidan growled, using his weapon to help himself stand. "We were never truly loyal in the first place," said another voice. Itachi stepped into view, appearing with a whirl of leaves. His crimson eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight. "Traitor," Kakuzu hissed. What's happening?" Yugito exclaimed, still trying to process everything. "Itachi," Kisame said. The Uchiha gave a simple nod, then gently tapped Yugito's shoulder, causing her to fall unconscious, safely out of the confrontation. "I won't let you escape," Kakuzu growled, summoning more chakra threads and masks. "Let's go," Hidan added, readying his weapon. Itachi activated his Sharingan while Kisame unwrapped Seimata. A tense silence fell over the group as both sides analyzed each other. Hidan moved to strike, but a white hand grabbed his shoulder. He turned and scowled. "Zetsu? What are you doing here?" Zetsu stepped forward. "I've been sent to stop the traitors." Itachi gave him a cool glance. "This may complicate things, but it's manageable." "Looks like it's now 4 versus 2, Zetsu said. A masked figure stepped out of the trees, his orange mask spiraling around one visible eye. His name was Toby. "It's good to see you all," Toby said politely. "Now's not the time for pleasantries," Hidan snapped. "Let's handle them." He hurled his weapon toward Kisame, who easily dodged and yanked the rope, sending Hidan flying back toward him. With a swift motion, Kisame swung Seimata and sent him crashing into a mountainside. Kakuzu wasted no time and launched another elemental assault toward Itachi. Wind style, pressure gale. Fire style, flame torrent. Itachi calmly responded, his Mangekyo Sharingan activating. Amaterasu. Dark flame surged forth, colliding with the elemental jutsu and overtaking them. Kakuzu barely evaded. Meanwhile, Kisame defended against Zetsu's strikes and Hidan's recovered weapon. He blocked a blow but took a hit to the side from Zetsu, skidding backward. "Hey, now it's a real challenge," Kisame said with a toothy grin. Zetsu grinned. "Too bad it ends here." Hands erupted from the ground, grabbing Kisame's legs. Hidan moved in quickly, scythe ready to strike. Kisame struggled to break free. Just as Hidan's weapon closed in, a clay bird zipped in from the sky and exploded, redirecting the scythe. Kisame took the opportunity to break free, sending Zetsu flying with a strong punch. 2 new chakra signatures appeared in the sky as a large clay bird descended. Riding it were 2 more cloaked figures, one with long blonde hair, the other with crimson locks. "Looks like we made it just in time, right Sasori Dana?" the blonde said. "Exactly. Nice to see you two holding your own," the redhead replied. Kisame grinned. "Finally. Took you long enough." Itachi faced Kakuzu. "Now it's 4 on 4. Let's see how this plays out." Kakuzu frowned. "It doesn't matter. You won't escape." Itachi's eyes gleamed slightly. "Is that so?" Kakuzu locked eyes with him, just for a moment, but that was all Itachi needed. Kakuzu's movements froze, trapped in an illusion. "Tsukiyomi," Itachi whispered, as the Sharingan began to spin. Darkness. Everything was swallowed in an empty, endless void. The world of the Tsukiyomi, something Naruko had only heard about, now trapped her completely. It was cold, silent, and eerie. Kakuzu found himself bound tightly, suspended in mid-air, unable to move. His eyes focused on the one responsible for this illusion, the calm and calculated Uchiha Itachi. "Comfortable?" The Sharingan wielder asked, his tone unreadable. You think this illusion will break me, Uchiha? Kakuzu answered with dry amusement. I've lived through centuries and have seen more than most. Whatever this is, I'll endure it. Itachi remained unbothered. You've replaced almost everything in your body. But there's one thing you've never been able to swap out. And what would that be? Kakuzu asked, clearly intrigued. Itachi raised a hand and pointed to his own head. Your brain. It may be resilient, but even a mind like yours has limits. Kakuzu's amusement faded slightly. That may be true, but I've grown numb to most sensations. This won't work. A subtle smirk tugged at Itachi's lips. Let's test that theory. A katana shimmered into existence near his palm. Holding it firmly, Itachi approached. For 144 hours, he began calmly, you will experience a very specific sensation. Kakuzu scoffed. This is pointless. Directly in your mind, Itachi finished. At once, Kakuzu flinched, overwhelmed by a feeling he had not experienced in a long time, true, disorienting discomfort. Unable to suppress his reaction, he cried out in pain. The illusion continued relentlessly, designed not to harm physically but to mentally challenge even the most disciplined. His resolve began to waver. 1 hour down, Itachi said emotionlessly. 143 to go. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Kisame chuckled as he clashed weapons with Hidan, their blades locking mid-swing. What's wrong? All out of things to say about your beliefs? Kisame teased. Hidan struggled to hold his ground. His weapon, showing signs of wear, was no match for the massive blade Kisame wielded. With a powerful motion, Kisame's sword knocked Hidan back, sending him tumbling. Point goes to me, Kisame said with a grin. Zetsu kept a cautious eye on Sasori, who stood silently with one of his puppets at the ready. Puppet masters were always unpredictable, and Sasori was among the most skilled. Why turn against the organization? What do you gain from this betrayal? Zetsu asked warily. We're not seeking to gain anything, Sasori said softly. Then why? Zetsu pressed. Because we're not willing to lose everything, Itachi's voice interjected, emerging from behind with Kakuzu, now unconscious, at his feet. You can't see it, can you? Sasori continued. To him, we're nothing more than pawns. Zetsu remained outwardly calm, but his eyes narrowed. You misunderstand. His vision is something greater than you can comprehend. He seeks to manipulate power through the tailed beasts. That's not vision, it's obsession, Itachi responded coolly. Don't compare him to Orochimaru, Zetsu growled. Regardless, Sasori interrupted, activating his puppet, we're no longer playing his game. Iron sand spilled from the puppet, quickly forming into high-speed projectiles. Reacting swiftly, Zetsu created a barrier of earth to shield himself. But Sasori was confident. My iron sand isn't easily stopped. True to his word, the iron spheres pierced through Zetsu's defense, some grazing his body and weakening him. Retreat, Zetsu shouted, calling to Tobi and Hidan. With precise coordination, the 3 remaining members regrouped. Tobi performed hand signs and, within seconds, they vanished into the ground, escaping before anyone could intercept. The remaining group, Itachi, Sasori, Deidara, and Kisame, stood silently as the illusion of peace returned to the forest. Kisame sheathed his blade. We should go. The local shinobi likely sensed the chakra we used, he warned. Deidara glanced toward Yugito, who lay unconscious. What about her? She's the reason we came, right? Leave her. Let her village handle their own, Sasori said, resting casually against a rock. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the shadows, landing with grace and authority. His robes marked him as the leader of Kumagakure, the 3rd Reikage. He removed his hat, revealing a sharp-eyed man in his early 40s, strong and composed. An elite squad of Onbu surrounded him. What reason do 4 former Akatsuki have for being here with one of my own in such a state? He asked, his voice calm but firm. Itachi stepped forward. We have severed ties with the organization. Yugito was attacked, and we intervened to stop it. How do I know you're telling the truth? The Reikage asked skeptically. You can see that she's unharmed beyond minor fatigue. We didn't lay a hand on her. If anything, we preserved her safety. After inspecting his unconscious apprentice, the Reikage handed her to one of the Onbu. Why turn against Akatsuki? Kisame shrugged. We disagreed with the direction it was taking. We refused to be used. A betrayal, then? The Reikage muttered. A necessary decision, Itachi replied. And a warning. If your village stands alone, they'll come again. Stronger. Deidara nodded. You need allies, like Suna or Konoha. Sasori added, both villages also protect Jinchuriki. Unity is your best option. The Raikage absorbed their words, clearly deep in thought. Why help us? He asked again. As long as the organization continues to chase its twisted goal, we'll work against them. And helping you helps us do that. The Raikage narrowed his eyes. I see. Then I thank you for safeguarding Yugito, but... He unsheathed a katana, as his Anbu readied their own weapons. You are still wanted shinobi. Come quietly, and your cases may be considered. Kisame laughed lightly. You really think this will end in capture? Itachi activated his Sharingan. I'm sorry, but we must decline. For two reasons. 1, we're not ready to spend our lives in a cell, and 2. Their forms suddenly shimmered and collapsed into water. We're not actually here, came Itachi's lingering voice. The Raikage sighed. Water clones. Orders, Raikage-sama? Asked a female Anbu. Secure Yugito. Everyone else, search the area. I want full intel. And the former Akatsuki? Another Anbu questioned. For now, the Raikage replied, eyes on the moonlit sky, they may be unexpected allies. But we'll keep our guard up. With that, he vanished into the night, the wind rustling softly through the forest. Konoha and Suna, huh? Might be worth a try. Two shinobi walked down the lively streets of Konoha. Even though night had fallen, the roads remained quite active. The shorter of the two, though only by a slight difference, had blonde hair that naturally caught the attention of both citizens and shinobi alike. Many passers-by found themselves momentarily surprised by her resemblance to the Yondaime, while some admired her presence with quiet smiles. It looks like you're quite popular around here, Naruko, Kakashi commented while still immersed in the pages of his latest lighthearted novel. Naruko glanced at her senior with mild irritation. While it was somewhat flattering to be noticed, the constant attention, especially from other kunoichi watching her closely, could get overwhelming. Great. Just what I need, more attention, Naruko sighed. It's not so bad, Naruko, Kakashi responded cheerfully. Many people would be thrilled to receive this kind of admiration. You're being noticed, enjoy the moment, he said with a chuckle. Who could possibly want that kind of attention all the time? Naruko wondered silently. When you say you know people who'd do anything for attention, she asked, raising a brow, does that include Guy-sensei, his eyebrows, and his very bright outfit? Kakashi's amusement halted. His expression turned serious. Let's not talk about that. The last time I asked Guy about his attire or fashion choices. It was quite the experience. Once was enough. Naruko couldn't help but shiver slightly at the thought. Guy's endless lectures about youth, his vibrant green jumpsuits, and that dazzling sunset technique could overwhelm anyone, even Kakashi's Sharingan had trouble with it. As they walked, they arrived at a building marked with the leaf symbol. Kakashi closed his book and opened the door, motioning for Naruko to follow. This is the Chonin/Jounin Lounge, pretty self-explanatory. A place for us to relax a bit and take a break from the usual mission stress, Kakashi explained as they walked down a corridor with doors on either side. They stopped at one marked Chonin/Jounin 12. Kakashi opened the door, and Naruko followed. The lounge was spacious, furnished with comfortable seating, a few televisions, and several refrigerators likely stocked with refreshments. Many Chonin and Jounin were engaged in cheerful conversations, discussing everyday topics beyond their shinobi duties. Their chatter softened briefly as the two entered, giving them curious looks before returning to their conversations, although a few still cast occasional glances toward the unfamiliar blonde. In one corner where two couches formed an L shape sat a group of familiar faces, Kurenai, Asuma, Genma, Guy, Anko, Hana, and Yuigao. They appeared to be discussing something interesting. So let me get this straight, Anko said, clearly intrigued, that young blonde kunoichi I remember from the Chonin exams 3 years ago. She managed to best Kakashi in a spar, even while he was using his Sharingan? For the last time, Anko, yes, Kurenai replied with a hint of exasperation. I was there, along with Guy, Genma, Asuma, Shizune, Sakura, Tsunade-sama, and Jiraiya-sama. Naruko won, fair and square. Impressive, Yuigao said with admiration. If she managed that, she must be among the most capable in the village now. Exactly, Asuma added, lighting a cigarette. She wasn't trained by the Toad Sage for nothing. To think she was part of the Rookie 9 alongside my younger brother, Hana mused with a smile. She really is something special. Youthful spirit. Naruko-chan is the very embodiment of youth, Guy exclaimed, his enthusiasm echoing across the room. Please keep it down, Kakashi groaned, rubbing his temple. This is a place for relaxing, remember? Ah. Kakashi, we were just talking about your recent match with Naruko. It's likely going to be a popular topic in the village for a while, Genma said with a grin as he sipped a drink. What's going to be the talk of the village? Naruko asked, stepping closer. The group turned to see her, greeting her warmly. Some, like Yuigao, Anko, and Hana, hadn't seen her in some time and observed her with quiet surprise. They're talking about how you bested me during your Jounin promotion match, Kakashi said. At that, the room went silent as the others turned their attention to Naruko. Slightly flustered by the attention, she quickly took a seat next to Hana, who smiled at her while trying not to show her slight blush. Well, pass me some sake, Guy, Kakashi said, settling into a chair. We should celebrate my student's achievement. Guy nodded and fetched 3 bottles of sake and several saucers from a nearby fridge. With drinks poured, the room gradually returned to its casual atmosphere. Laughter and friendly chatter resumed. Naruko sighed, glad the tension had eased. She picked up a saucer and poured herself some sake. The others around her raised curious eyebrows. Are you sure you're okay with that, Naruko? Asuma asked, voicing the question on many minds. In response, Naruko calmly took a sip and nodded. I've been drinking occasionally for over a year now. Jiraiya-sensei said if I'm strong enough to handle life as a shinobi, then I'm responsible enough to handle a drink. The others accepted her answer and shared a drink as well. Conversation flowed freely. Naruko found herself answering a lot of playful questions from Anko, though thankfully Kurenai, Yuigao, and Hana stepped in before things got too lively. 2 hours passed. The room had mostly cleared, leaving only a few Jounin and Naruko's group. Well, it's time I called it a night, Genma said, rising unsteadily. Genma, can you give me a hand with those two? Kakashi asked, pointing to a very relaxed Asuma and a snoring Guy. Fine, Genma replied, chuckling. That left Naruko alone with the 4 kunoichi. Anko was drowsy and giggling to herself, Hana had nodded off mid-conversation, and Yuigao was quietly watching Naruko with a thoughtful look. Kurenai, though tipsy, seemed to be the most composed. Are they going to be alright, Kurenai-san? Naruko asked with concern. Kurenai looked at her friends and sighed. I had a feeling it would end like this. So, what should we do now? Could you help me take them back to my place? I live nearby, she asked, carefully standing. Sure, that's no problem. Just point me in the right direction, Naruko replied. Kurenai wobbled slightly, prompting Naruko to gently lift her in a bridal-style carry. What are you doing? Kurenai asked, surprised. You're not in the best condition to walk, Kurenai-san. This way will be quicker. Though surprised, Kurenai gave a small nod of thanks, quietly appreciating Naruko's kindness. With a pop, 3 shadow clones appeared and gently lifted the remaining kunoichi. Naruko gave them a mental command, and they all took to the rooftops. Following Kurenai's directions, they reached a familiar-looking apartment complex. Naruko blinked in surprise. This looks just like my building. 3rd floor, Kurenai murmured. My apartment is number 65. Naruko followed her lead and set her down once they reached the floor. Her clones gently placed the others inside before disappearing with a puff. Naruko turned to leave, but Kurenai stopped her. Thank you, Naruko. I hope we see more of each other, as friends and teammates now that you're a Jounin. Naruko smiled in return, about to reply when Kurenai gave her a light kiss on the cheek before disappearing into her apartment. Stunned, Naruko stood there, hand slowly reaching up to touch her cheek. After a long moment, she quietly entered her own apartment, directly next to Kurenai's. Why are things always more complicated than they seem? With that thought, she closed the door behind her. A man in white and blue robes leaned against a wall in his office, his posture tense, his body trembling from fatigue. His clothes were soaked, and his breath came in ragged gasps as he clutched at his side. He scanned the room, eyes narrowing as they fell upon the silent figure standing in the shadows. "Why?" he asked in a weak, strained voice. The figure stepped into the light, a tall, poised kunoichi with shoulder-length green hair, clear eyes, and a large katana strapped across her back. She wore the uniform of a Kiri Jounin, her village headband tied firmly around her left arm. She unsheathed her katana and calmly placed its edge near the Mizukage's shoulder. Your time as leader has come to an end. It's time for someone who will bring peace and prosperity back to Kirigakure, she said, her voice even and determined. The Mizukage's expression darkened, his breathing shallow. With what little strength he had left, he glared at her. You should have been stopped long ago. You and your comrades, those with inherited abilities, you've always been a threat. The kunoichi remained calm and composed. Is that how you choose to be remembered? Before he could respond, she struck swiftly and cleanly, ensuring he could no longer harm anyone. The Mizukage's body relaxed as he slumped to the side, finally still. That wasn't really a question, she whispered softly. She stepped back, wiped her blade with a cloth, and then sheathed it with care. Her eyes fell upon the Mizukage's ceremonial hat, which she lifted gently from a nearby drawer. Was that really necessary, Mihiro-chan? Came a voice from behind. The kunoichi turned to see a fellow jounin, tall, calm, and dressed in standard Kiri uniform. His own weapon was broad and curved, carried across his back. He's caused the village enough hardship, Mihiro replied, placing the Mizukage's hat atop her head. It's time for change. The man smiled faintly. So, what are your first orders, Rakudaime Mizukage? Mihiro turned to look out the window. The village shimmered in the moonlight, its beauty dimmed by hardship and poverty. Her gaze was thoughtful, her tone resolute. Call a village assembly. Tell everyone the new Mizukage will address them shortly. As expected from the leader of the 7 swordsmen, and now the entire village, he said with a chuckle, vanishing in a swirl of smoke. Mihiro looked out once more at the village below, determination in her heart. I promise, sensei. I'll restore this village to what it was meant to be. Konoha, next morning, 6 a.m. Naruko woke with a jolt as her alarm buzzed loudly on her nightstand. Her eyes squinted in the early light, and with a grumble, she silenced the clock with a chakra-enhanced tap. Still early. I can sleep a bit more, she muttered, turning over and dozing off once again. 10 minutes later, a persistent knock at the door forced her out of bed. Rubbing her eyes, Naruko shuffled to the door, pulling on a pair of pants before opening it. This better be worth waking up for, she said as she opened the door. Standing outside was Genma, grinning. You get promoted to jounin and suddenly you think you're royalty? It's just too early, Naruko replied with a yawn. Genma chuckled. Well, Hokage-sama wants to see you. You've got 10 minutes. With that, he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruko sighed, closed the door, and went to change. Whatever Lady Tsunade had planned, she hoped it wouldn't involve too much effort, her head still ached from the late-night celebration. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade took a sip of tea and stared at the mountain of paperwork in front of her. She glanced at a recent message from Kirigakure, a formal proposal for an alliance, sent directly from their new leader. Kirigakure offering an alliance, after staying neutral for so long. She muttered to herself. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Naruko entered, more alert than before, and plopped herself into a chair. What's up, Ba-chan? She asked casually. Tsunade ignored the nickname and got straight to the point. We've received an official request for alliance talks from the new Mizukage of Kirigakure. They're asking for a liaison from us. Naruko sat up straighter, suddenly intrigued. As you know, Kiri has remained distant from global affairs for decades. This sudden change is curious, Tsunade said. So I'm sending you there as our representative. You'll leave tomorrow and stay there for a few weeks. She tossed Naruko a scroll, which she caught deftly. Wait, what about Sasuke? Naruko asked, her expression becoming serious. Isn't Orochimaru close to making his move? Tsunade raised a hand. According to recent intelligence, Orochimaru has postponed his plans. The Akatsuki interfered and weakened him significantly. He's taken another vessel, buying Sasuke more time. Naruko let out a slow breath, processing the news. Although Sasuke had made his own choices, she couldn't let Orochimaru grow stronger. I still won't let him get the Sharingan, she muttered. Tsunade's gaze softened. I know. But for now, focus on this mission. We need to build strong relationships, and you're the best person for the job. Besides, Jiraiya says you have a few allies in Kiri already. Naruko smiled. Guess I'd better start packing then. See you later, Ba-chan. She left the office with a casual wave, the door clicking softly behind her. As Naruko walked through the quiet streets of Konoha, her stomach growled. It was too early for most shops to be open, so homemade breakfast would have to do. Unfortunately, she remembered too late, her fridge was empty. Ugh, seriously? She muttered. With a sigh, she leapt onto a nearby rooftop, scanning for the nearest open store. No matter what awaited her in Kiri, she was going to need breakfast first. Kirigakure, 3 p.m. The alliance proposal has been received by Konoha, Rakudaime-sama, a jounin reported while standing at attention in the Mizukage's office. This was the same jounin who had previously delivered the proposal to Lady Tsunade. Excellent. You're dismissed, responded the green-haired Rakudaime, her tone calm and composed. The jounin nodded respectfully and exited, leaving the Mizukage alone. Mihiro allowed herself a satisfied smile as she recalled her earlier meeting with the village's shinobi. The people had welcomed her with open arms, fully supporting her new leadership. Their efforts to restore Kirigakure to its former strength were already well underway. A knock at the door brought her back to the present. With a nod, she signaled the visitor to enter. Hiro stepped in, carrying a folder brimming with documents. I've brought the latest reports on the remaining members, Mizukage-sama, he said. Come now, Hiro-kun. You know you don't need to be so formal with me, Mihiro said with a light chuckle. In that case, Mihiro-chan, Hiro replied with a smile as he walked over and set the folder on her desk. Mihiro opened it and began scanning through the shinobi profiles inside. As she did, Hiro began speaking again. It appears that Momochi Zabuza and Kurosuke Raiga are no longer active. Hoshigaki Kisame was once affiliated with Akatsuki, but recent whispers suggest he may have left the group. As for Itada Bantanmaru and Seisei Nekin, both have disappeared from sight. Bantanmaru-san will probably reappear once word spreads that Kiri has a new Mizukage. His curiosity always gets the better of him. It's Seisei-sensei I'm more concerned about, Mihiro said, frowning slightly as she reviewed a particular file. Don't worry about Seisei Nekin. I think I have a plan to find her, Hiro said thoughtfully. Mihiro raised an eyebrow and placed the documents down. Finding her is one thing, persuading her is something else entirely. Let's just say I'm calling in a favor from an old friend, he said with a knowing grin. Mihiro sighed and gave him a playful glare. All right, Hiro-kun, I'll let it go for now. But behave yourself. Hiro laughed nervously, clearly noting her warning tone. Anyway, she continued, I want you to go to Konoha and bring back a liaison shinobi. They'll be staying here for a while. We can't afford to let this opportunity slip, we need the alliance with Konoha to stabilize our economy. The previous administration left quite a mess, and we're in desperate need of trade partnerships. Hiro nodded. When should I leave? They're expecting you by tomorrow. You can depart whenever you're ready, as long as you arrive on time. Understood. I'll prepare now. Johnny. With that, Hiro vanished in a puff of smoke. Mihiro stared at the fading smoke cloud before returning her focus to the files. Her attention soon landed on 7 names, the legendary members of the Kiri Shinobi Gatana Shichinin Shu. 2 confirmed, including myself. 1 maybe, 2 uncertain, and 2 inactive. This won't be easy, she muttered to herself. She separated Zabuza's and Raiga's profiles and marked them as no longer active. That left 5 potential spots, 3 of which could be reclaimed if she succeeded in reaching the original members. Bantanmaru would likely return now that the former Mizukage was gone. It was Kisame and Seisei who presented the real challenge. Both were immensely skilled, and while Bantanmaru was a close match, Mihiro had risen to lead them not by force, but through her intelligence and strategy. So focused was she on her work, Mihiro didn't notice Jiraiya leaning against the far wall. The well-known sage observed her for a moment before finally announcing himself. You just took the position, and you're already drowning yourself in paperwork. You're a true workaholic, Mihiro-chan. Startled, Mihiro's head shot up, and she instinctively reached for her sword, pointing it in his direction. It's just me. No need to panic, he said casually, completely unbothered. Realizing who it was, Mihiro lowered her weapon and blinked. Jiraiya-sama? The one and only, he said with a grin and a fist pump. My apologies. I thought someone had snuck in, she said, laughing lightly as she put her sword away and sat back down. No harm done. That's what I get for entering without a proper greeting, he said as he took a seat on the couch nearby. What brings you here, Jiraiya-sama? She asked while pulling out 2 bottles of sake from her drawer. As usual, cage desks always seem to come with refreshments. Jiraiya accepted the offered bottle and took a small sip before replying, I came to check in on you. I was passing through and heard that there's a new Mizukage. Then I come in and find you buried under stacks of paperwork. The previous Mizukage left things in a sorry state. I'm just trying to fix it before things fall apart, she said as she filled a small saucer with sake. Yeah, your predecessor was. Let's just say he prioritized himself over the village. I'm surprised things held together as long as they did, Jiraiya replied with a sigh. That's exactly why I'm moving quickly. We don't have the luxury of time. Our current economy can't hold for long. That's why we reached out to Konoha. I understand. But even so, you don't have to take everything on your own shoulders. It's okay to take a breath now and then, he advised. Mihiro gave a small smile. What's done is done. I actually meant to speak to you later this week, but since you're here, maybe I can ask now, can you do me a favor? Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Of course. What do you need? Your information network is among the best in the world, right? Shinobi and non-shinobi alike? She asked. He nodded, curious. I need you to locate some individuals, she said, handing over 3 files. Jiraiya skimmed through them, his eyes widening a bit. You're trying to bring back the Kiri Shinobi Katana? Hi. Atada Bantanmaru, Hoshigaki Kisame, and Murakama Seisei. They're all highly valuable, but we don't currently have the capacity to search for them ourselves, not while we're focused on rebuilding the village. So you need me to locate them using my resources. But you don't want me to approach them? He clarified. Exactly. Just their whereabouts. I'll handle the rest. It'll be easier if they hear from someone they already know, she said. And Seisei? He asked. Even with you or Hiro, she might not come back easily. Mihiro gave a confident smile. Hiro-kun claims he has an idea. Let's trust him. Jiraiya chuckled. That sounds like him. Finishing the rest of his sake, he stood and stretched before heading toward the door. Well, I'm glad you're holding up well. I'll stick around the village for a bit, got some personal business to take care of before I run into Hiro on his way back. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. But what kind of business, if I may ask? She said with a knowing smirk. The sage turned back with a mischievous glint in his eye. Research. What else? As the door closed behind him, Mihiro twitched with mild annoyance. Her expression tightened as she clenched her fist. Research, huh? Honestly. Konoha, 7 p.m. Naruko walked in the direction of Ichiraku, ready to enjoy a well-deserved meal after a day of intense training. She gently massaged her left hand, recalling her spar with Guy. While she had grown stronger and could now match him in skill, the energetic Jounin still packed quite the punch. I really didn't need to catch that 5 gates powered kick, did I? She mused to herself with a wry smile. Upon entering Ichiraku, she was greeted by the sight of 3 familiar faces, and a large dog, seated at a nearby table. Quietly approaching with a warm smile, Naruko greeted them. Hey, how's it going Kiba, Shino, Hinata? And Akamaru? She asked pleasantly. Team 8 stiffened at the sound of her voice, then turned to see the familiar blonde. Naruko gave a friendly wave at their stunned expressions. Kiba was the first to speak up. Naruko. Wow, it's been 3 years. Look at you. Akamaru barked happily, tail wagging in recognition. I could say the same about you, Naruko replied, pointing to Kiba's new leather jacket. Nice style upgrade. Kiba grinned. Hey, thanks. You're looking great yourself, way better now that you ditched that bright jumpsuit. Naruko chuckled. Good to see you too, Shino, she said, turning to the quieter member of the group. It's good to see you again, Naruko, Shino responded calmly. Naruko smiled sheepishly. To be honest, I almost didn't recognize you for a second. Shino raised an eyebrow and gave a subtle nod in response. Naruko simply shook her head fondly. Shino would always be Shino. Her gaze shifted to Hinata, who was sitting close to Kiba, their arms lightly touching. Naruko raised an eyebrow with a knowing look. Hello, Naruko-chan. I'm glad you're back, Hinata said with a genuine smile, noticeably more confident than before. Good to see you too, Hinata, Naruko replied, eyeing the closeness between her and Kiba. She glanced back and forth between the two, a playful grin forming. So, you two are a thing now, huh? Kiba, I always thought you had a soft spot for Hinata. Hinata blushed deeply while Kiba tried to come up with a response, caught off guard. Naruko and Shino exchanged amused looks as Ayame's voice cut in from behind the counter. What can I get for you today, Naruko-chan? Ayame asked kindly. Hinata and Kiba quietly sighed in relief at the shift in focus. 4 bowls of pork ramen for takeout, please. Naruko responded enthusiastically. Ayame nodded and went into the kitchen to pass the order along. Naruko turned back to the group, her curiosity still piqued. So, when did this start? She asked, smiling. Kiba fumbled for words, while Hinata looked down shyly. Seeing neither of them answering, Shino stepped in. It began about a year ago. After a training session with Kurenai-sensei, Kiba finally found the courage to ask her out. I see. Anything interesting happen while I was gone? Naruko asked with interest. Nothing major, though there was an awkward moment when Kiba accidentally fell onto Hinata in front of Hyashi-sama, Shino said matter-of-factly. How do you even know about that? Kiba exclaimed in disbelief, pointing at Shino as Hinata's cheeks turned bright red again. Shino simply raised a finger. A small insect crawled up before flying away. A little friend informed me, he said calmly. Kiba's expression became more flustered. Wait, have you been checking in on us? I only observed to make sure everything was all right, Shino responded sincerely. Naruko chuckled at their exchange. Shino really did seem to have taken on the older sibling role within the team. Between Kiba's impulsiveness and Hinata's quiet nature, Team 8 definitely needed someone with a calm presence, and Shino filled that spot perfectly. After a few minutes, Ayame returned from the kitchen holding a neatly packed takeout box with the 4 bowls of ramen. Naruko, practically glowing with excitement, quickly moved to the register with her wallet ready. That'll be 200 yen, Naruko-chan, Ayame said cheerfully as she handed over the box. Naruko smiled brightly, paid for the food, and took her order. I'll see you all later. She called out as she turned to leave. All right, take care, Naruko. Kiba replied, Akamaru barking in agreement. Shino nodded, and Hinata waved alongside Ayame. Naruko returned the gesture with a grin and stepped out into the evening. Something about tomorrow felt like it was going to be full of surprises. Whenever she had these gut feelings, they usually turned out to be right. Looking down at her ramen, her stomach growled in agreement with her current priority. Naruko picked up her pace toward her apartment, eager to dig into her meal. She hoped to get home without bumping into Kurenai or the other kunoichi who lived nearby. She wasn't in the mood for unexpected visitors or overly enthusiastic greetings tonight. As she walked, she caught herself thinking about the friends she'd reunited with, and maybe a bit too much about their compliments. Must be Jiraiya-sensei's influence, she thought, rolling her eyes. No more silly thoughts. Ramen first, thinking later. With that, Naruko dashed ahead, determined to reach her home and enjoy her food in peace, and maybe take a refreshing shower to clear her head. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now, thank you for being part of this journey. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected and support the channel. Much love and respect. 6 Path Weeb.